Puzzle games. From Picross to Candy Crush, Marble Lines to Puyo Puyo, there is no doubt as to the widespread nature of this genre of video games. You ask any NES aficionado about puzzle games for the system, and two are more likely to come up than any other title. Tetris and Dr. Mario. The two are heralded as classics, must-plays for the system, especially given that both can be had for less than $10 a pop nowadays. But can these nigh 30-year-old puzzlers really compare to their current contemporaries? I'd say it's about time we found out. Let's start this off with a 4-block bang. Tetris needs no introduction. Much like old Jumpman Mario himself, even if you haven't touched a game controller in your life, you know the basic idea. A collection of 6 shapes made up of 4 small squares each, tetraminos as they're called, fall from the top of the screen to the bottom. If a row is filled up, it disappears from the playing field. The more rows you clear at once, the bigger the score bonus is. The largest amount of rows you can clear at once is 4. Tetris, as the game calls it. Now those are the basics. So what does this version do specifically? Released in 1989 by Nintendo, this version has 2 modes, and 3 music tracks to choose from, none of which are the famous Tetris theme, Korobiniki. Yes, one of the more petty complaints lobbed at this version of the game is the lack of the iconic theme. While the absence is noticeable, the 3 tracks in its place are good on their own. But those are simply musical choices. What type of gameplay does this version in specific offer? Only 2 game modes can be found here. Mode A is traditional Tetris. Randomly selected tetraminos fall until they stack to the top of the screen. The more rows that are cleared, the faster the shapes fall, meaning that even the most experienced and quick thinking of players will eventually fall victim to the sheer speed of this game at some point. Mode B, meanwhile, tasks the player with clearing a specific amount of rows. The amount of rows needed and the number of blocks already on the playing field can be altered in the menu to fit whatever challenge you feel up to at the moment. These variables are even taken into account when calculating your score at the end, so you may be able to make things easier for yourself, but don't expect to get on that high score table if you do so. Here is where the game begins to show its age, though. You see, for a game that's all about getting the highest score, there's no way to save your score once the console is turned off. It's understandable, yes, given that battery backups during this age were a bit pricey for consoles, but it is a noticeable gameplay omission. Then there are the issues with unrefined gameplay. When this was the only version of Tetris that I had played, I found it odd when other people took issue with the clunky spinning, the lack of a mark denoting where exactly a tetramino will fall, and the lack of an ability to hold a piece for later. And then I played Puyo Puyo Tetris. In comparison to a version like that, these mechanics feel ancient enough to have been dug up alongside the pyramids of Giza. All these flaws are one of a game that has aged, and not in the fine wine kind of way. It is still playable, yes, but is noticeably dated in all but its relatively okay 8-bit graphics by today's standards. I mean, if you have no other options, this version of Tetris certainly isn't the worst out there. The Sega Genesis one is pretty awful, all things considered, but you could do so much better on so many other platforms, like iOS or Switch, again, bringing up Puyo Puyo Tetris as a current contemporary example. It's not a hard pass per se, but unless you're really intrigued by the concept of the B mode, there's no point in seeking this version out specifically. But what about our second feature of the day, Dr. Mario? How does the good doctor fare compared to the mighty Mindbender from the Soviet Union? Released in 1990 by Nintendo, Dr. Mario, in its basic concept, is similar to Mode B from Tetris. Blocks fall from the top of the playing field, and the objective is to clear a certain amount of pre-existing objects from the screen. But the doctoral Mario coat of paint isn't the only thing keeping this game from being a simple Tetris clone. For one thing, instead of tetraminos made of 4 smaller blocks, this game utilizes pills made of 2 blocks each. The more limited amount of shapes that this setup allows for means that Dr. Mario relies on the color of each block to differentiate them. 3 colors in total to match the 3 colors of the viruses you must destroy. To destroy these viruses, they must be lined up with 3 or more blocks of the corresponding color. Destroy all the viruses on the playing field, and you move on to the next level with more viruses to destroy. You can start on any level you want, to the tune of the iconic Dr. Mario Fever theme, or the forgettable Chill theme that no one likes because it's not really all that good or worth listening to at all. The graphics are bright and colorful, and you can even go head-to-head with a friend for some multiplayer action. The game's hitting all the marks, so why don't I recommend it? The game, in and of itself, is much more slow and methodical than Tetris's. It's a hell of a lot easier to box yourself into a nigh unwinnable scenario, too, and as someone who's really only a casual puzzle fan, it comes off as a slog to play through. It doesn't have the easy-to-grasp gameplay of Tetris, nor the satisfying combo system of something like Puyo Puyo. If you really need a comparison, it's like the EA 2018 E3 conference of puzzle games. It has its moments of fun, yes, its moments where you smile and you enjoy yourself, but for the majority of the time it is just a slog to get through in several different ways. While both these games more than show their age, I'd say that Tetris is the one of the two worth playing. The gameplay is more timeless, it's easier to grasp, and it's just more exhilarating to play. Plus, the 2 game modes and 3 great music tracks more than make up for the lack of any kind of competitive mode, in my personal opinion. Both are fun enough games to play nowadays, but only real puzzle fans will get much of a kick out of Dr. Mario. With all that said, however, I hope you have a wonderful time here. Hope you have a good day, and I wish to see you all again another time.